This is exactly what Vikings fans want to hear as Ian Rapoport and Tom Pelissero drop a huge J.J. McCarthy update to give fans something to cheer about, even if the timing is absolutely brutal considering their Week 9 matchup. We're going to break down all that in this episode of Vikings Digest, but first, if you're not a part of the 17% of viewers who are already subscribed to the channel and you want to stay up to date on all things Vikings, make sure to hit that subscribe button and the bell icon so you don't miss any of the episodes when they drop. And with that, let's hop right into it, which is that J.J. McCarthy is back. So on NFL Game Day morning today, Ian Rapoport disclosed that the Vikings expect J.J. McCarthy to start versus the Lions. And then there's some stuff about Kirk Cousins and Lamar Jackson that we don't care about. But the big thing here is that J.J. McCarthy is expected to start when the Vikings come back on Week 9 against the Detroit Lions in the Motor City. And elaborating on it further is Rapoport saying that the Minnesota Vikings are expected to get J.J. McCarthy back for their next game. What the Vikings wanted to do was make sure when McCarthy was out there, he was fully healthy and ready to go, had enough practices to prepare, and was healthy. So he kept it brief and right to the point, but the fact of the matter is that J.J. McCarthy, as we kind of expected, especially after the way that the last game went, is that J.J. McCarthy will be back on the field for the Minnesota Vikings on Week 9 against the Detroit Lions. Now, how that will pan out for him, or whether it's a good idea or not, or whether it's good for him or not, we're going to talk about in a second. But having J.J. McCarthy back is going to be huge for this Vikings offense, because we saw how Carson Wentz, he basically fell apart on Thursday Night Football. He was broken to pieces, where the memes that I saw after the game about how Kevin O'Connell was basically Darth Sidious trying to put Carson Wentz back together as if he was Darth Vader to get back out on the field after that third quarter. It was hilarious, but also painful to watch, because Carson Wentz was just put through the ringer, and it just was a little bit of irresponsible coaching. Personally, I would have loved to have seen Max Brosmer get the full start in that game, especially that Carson wasn't 100%, because if it was going to be a buzzsaw anyways, at least see what this kid is made of when he has weapons around him and not just in garbage time or pre or late season. But as far as J.J. McCarthy coming back is concerned, Justin Jefferson is going to be happy because he's going to have a more reliable pass thrower. I mean, maybe not entirely because of how it started in those first couple games, but overall, I think that what I loved seeing in that game, as much as there was nothing really you love to see in that, was J.J. McCarthy on the sidelines. We've seen that look before, where he came out swinging in that fourth quarter in that Week 1 game. Now, this might be a bit of a reach, but what I'm hoping happens is that coming off of that Week 8 loss against the Chargers into Week 9, a huge game against the Detroit Lions, where a year ago in Week 18, we saw J.J. McCarthy on the sidelines just looking so pissed off that he wasn't on the field trying to do his part and make a difference, where hopefully we see him come back with a fire under his ass and he's just ready to just play lights out and show people at Ford Field what he can do and pull off a huge shocking upset against a division rival that has completely had our number for the past couple of years. So hopefully J.J. McCarthy is going to be everything that we want him to be by the end of this season. It's going to be a road to get there, but hopefully him coming back in Week 9 is going to be a lot better than the way he looked in Weeks 1 and 2, and we have more than just one good or one consistent quarter of football. But Tom Pelissero was also basically confirming this earlier this week on KFXN FM in Minnesota, saying that certainly all the indications are pointing towards McCarthy being available for that game against the Lions. And anybody who's talking about that there's a soft benching involved, he says that there are a bunch of different factors you have to take into account here. I know all the conspiracies and the soft benching. The bottom line is this: the way to ruin a young quarterback is to put him on the field if he's not fully healthy or he's not prepared. So that is going to be a huge thing that Kevin O'Connell did not want to risk and wanted to make sure that McCarthy was fully healthy and had all the preparation and practice available. Now, he hasn't practiced on back-to-back days since before Week 1. The ankle is getting close. He's clearly very close to being able to do it. They want to make sure he has all the movements available to him. And then where that preparation comes into play as well is in the practicing, where J.J. McCarthy is going to have a full week of practice prep, which is exactly what you want when you have a young quarterback or just any quarterback heading into their first game coming off of injury. You don't want them to have a short week where they were going to try and rush him into Thursday Night Football. They avoided that completely, had him just as the emergency quarterback, which with the way that game went, maybe you could have used him in there, but it wasn't a close game. Then you also have the fact that they come off of a longer extended week, almost like a mini bye, so to speak, where you have a lot longer and a bigger game prep week for J.J. McCarthy, where he gets more practices in, more opportunities to be in the film room, watching this Lions defense and breaking them down with the coverages that they're going to be throwing at us, because that Lions defense, they look scary. And one person who looks very scary on that Lions defense is that guy who is going to be a huge problem, and that is number 97, Aiden Hutchinson, because this season he has been on an absolute tear where he's got 11 solo tackles, then he's got 6 sacks where he's tied for 4th in the league. He's got tied for first and forced fumbles with 4 as well. No picks yet. Hopefully it stays that way. But overall, Aiden Hutchinson, he is a problem. He is a difference maker, and he is an absolute game wrecker. We saw Myles Garrett. He had 5 sacks and had a career day. Thankfully, it didn't result in Cleveland getting a win. You saw how mad he was in that press conference. Hopefully, this is one of those things where if Hutchinson has a great game, somehow Minnesota can come out with the win. Great. But usually with the Detroit Lions, when Hutch has a great game, the Lions have a great game, and that is not good for us, especially if the Lions have not only Hutchinson working on one side of the ball, but also Jahmyr Gibbs doing his thing on the other side of the ball. It's going to be very tough for Minnesota, where our run defense is in shambles right now. That front three with Javon Hargrave, Jonathan Allen, that is not, in Jalen Redmond against the run, is not looking very good right now. So Jahmyr Gibbs is going to look to take advantage of us that way, like he usually does. Last season, the season finale, just went absolutely ham and cheeseburger on us, and it was terrible to witness. I was in Detroit watching that happen, and it sucked to see. Then you have them coming in here again, hopefully because they aren't wearing their black jerseys, that they're not going to go crazy on us like they usually do, or like they in their black jerseys and against us in those jerseys. And you can just contain Aiden Hutchinson the best that you can. The good news in that with containing Hutchinson is that Christian Darrisaw and Brian O'Neill are likely to be back for this game. And that is the biggest thing, I think, for this game, is that we look at the Vikings offensive struggles this year, where yes, a part of it is poor quarterback play, not just from Carson Wentz, but also from J.J. McCarthy at times. But the biggest factor that we have to consider in all this is that the biggest thing Minnesota did in the offseason was invest in the offensive line. They went out, they got Will Fries and Ryan Kelly. They went and they drafted Donovan Jackson. They got Darrisaw and Brian O'Neill there already. Ryan Kelly, there's been a lot of conkies as a result of that, and he might not even play football again. Who knows with where his career is at. Hopefully he can come back from IR and stay healthy for the rest of the year, because he's the final piece that is missing on this offensive line. But outside of that, you have 4 out of the 5 offensive linemen that could be coming back and are likely going to be back for this game against the Lions. And that is going to be the healthiest that this offensive line has been all season. Not once this season have we seen all 5 of those offensive linemen that we invested in and brought back and drafted all on the field at the same time. We haven't seen Donovan Jackson, Will Fries, Ryan Kelly, Brian O'Neill, and Christian Darrisaw all blocking for J.J. McCarthy at the same time. And that has led to a lot of the problems that we're seeing on offense. Carson Wentz, he's been getting the hell kicked out of him. J.J. McCarthy, he took a lot of beatings and didn't have time to throw. And especially when you have a young quarterback who's really in a rookie year for him, essentially, as far as playing, you want to make sure that he has all the time and protection possible so that he doesn't make any mistakes or just looks bad and just making the haters feel vindicated where something might not be as true as what they think it is. So you got to compensate for that by making sure that your offensive line is as healthy as possible and is performing as good as they can, because that is going to lead to quarterback success. And that is the biggest thing to contributing to quarterback success. Obviously, being a good quarterback is a part of it. But when you look at the best teams that have the best quarterbacks right now, they have the best offensive lines in football. You look at the Eagles, you look at the Bills, the Ravens, not really good right now, but they can be really good when Lamar is playing somehow. And as well as some other teams around the league. The Lions, of course, being another big example of that as well, with how good that offensive line is no matter what. And even with their defense, no matter who they got in there, seems to be that they make it work somehow. Here's to hoping that for 1 week, they just forget it, they take us lightly, and we can just absolutely surprise the hell out of them and get an upset win in a trap game against the Detroit Lions. But what did you guys think about all this? How pumped are you about the idea of J.J. McCarthy coming back for week 9? I know it's going to be an absolute buzzsaw that he's going to be going into because 97 is such a huge problem. But hopefully all of that stuff that happened earlier in the season is just by the wayside and we can go into this game and get a big upset win. But let us know what you guys have to say about it down in the comments below. But that's going to do it for this episode of Vikings Digest. I've been your host, Griffen. Take care.